Okay, let's jump straight back into the dilemma that we left the last episode off with. Marco Asensio, is this guy Basque? I'm going with yes, and I saw a lot of your comments also agreed with me. His dad was Basque, he still lives in the Basque area, as do dozens of his relatives, and to be honest, we need someone who can play as a striker and a right midfielder. For just £60,000 per week, we're welcoming Asensio into Bilbao 12 years after the club denied him joining from Mallorca. So, now let's move our attention to the Champions League. This tournament works just like the Europa League last year. Every club is put into one of 4 groups based on how good they are, and then we play against 2 teams from each one of these groups. We're in Pot 4, which is the lowest group because we qualified via the Champions League playoffs, but teams like PSG and Man City are found in Pot 1, and so on. This is going to be a really match-heavy episode, so let's start our campaign straight away. And it's actually a massive day for Athletic Bilbao. It's our first Champions League match in 9 years, and somehow only the 3rd time in 125 years that Bilbao have qualified for this competition. After a pretty decent season last year in the Europa League, this is finally the big stage, and in true Bilbao fashion, we've assembled quite a good squad with lots of Champions League pedigree. You might remember that Marco Asensio and Kepa have both won the Champions League, and they're both making their debuts in this match, hoping to get a little bit more experience into the squad. In fact, the atmosphere in Monaco was absolutely buzzing, and the game did start off quite defensively. It almost felt like both teams were more interested in staying unbeaten in game week 1 than going for the win. And early on, inverted wingback Moyenkola had our best chance when he smashed one from the edge of the box after we pulled the ball across to him. It was the entire goal of our tactic to get him into this position. And Monaco would respond with their danger man Balogun driving into the box. We did a reckless slide tackle that missed him entirely, but Kepa would stand firm, producing his first big save for the club on his return. In the second half, we wanted to regain control in the midfield, so we switched back to the 4-4-1-1 to see how this would do in the Champions League. It worked pretty well in the Europa League last year, but tonight, Monaco's compact space is proving almost impenetrable. We can't find any space, we can't dribble, we can't pass around them, and if anything, the change actually opens us up slightly at the back. Vivian had to pull off this perfectly timed tackle to deny Balogun as he was racing through. Balogun, the man that we've been struggling to contain this entire game, turns both Azpilicueta and Vencedor with one touch. His shot is saved by Kepa, but the rebound loops up in slow motion, and as we scramble, Balogun would beat Uri in the air and bundle it home. We're 1-0 down. Minutes later, disaster would strike again. Monaco back heels slices through our midfield. Balogun would ride the tackle, he would power into the box, and then he would slot it straight past Kepa. 2-0, and the game does kind of feel like it's gone. We kept pushing, Gurzetta would drive in from the left and did nearly pull one back, and a rebound would also fall kindly for us, but we would miss that one too. The referee would blow his whistle, and it's been a pretty sobering return to Europe's elite competition. To be honest, we weren't actually too happy with how Asensio and Kepa were playing, and if we felt that last year's Europa League run was quite hard, this is going to be an entirely different beast. If we're going to get out of the group stages, we need to learn, and learn fast. The San Mamés was buzzing for our first home game in the Champions League this season, but the pressure was truly on. After that tough loss to Monaco, we need a result tonight or we might be slowly sinking out of the Champions League at the first hurdle. Milan, however, aren't here to make things easy. The match starts off with a flurry of Milan attacks. Leao, Morata and Pulisic all combine brilliantly, and Leao forces a pretty good save from Aguirre Zabala. Kepa has been dropped. We were really not very happy with him, and only a few minutes later, Morata would take a speculative shot from distance just inches wide of the goal. The early warning signs were pretty clear. This is going to be a real battle of a match. We do grow into the game though, and Gurzetta would slip a clever pass into Sanzet, who would drive into the box just inches away from pulling it back to Iñaki Williams. That was a real glimpse of what we can do, and the fact that we can do it at this level. Sanzet in particular is feeling really sharp. He tries his luck with an ambitious long-range strike, but Mike Maignan is always going to save that one. Still, it is encouraging to see us make chances. There was a moment of controversy just before half-time. Some slick one-touch passing got the ball into the box and Nico would go down under a challenge. The crowd didn't really call for the penalty and the referee just waved it away, saying there was nothing wrong with that tackle. As the game progresses, chances are still really hard to come by. Gurzetta would battle past Teo Hernandez and he would feed Sanzet, but the midfielder can't get it on target when it was a really good chance. You can see the frustration on his face, head in his hands as the opportunity slips through his fingers. We're starting to find our rhythm now though, and Nico has 2 good chances in quick succession, but Maignan denies both his shot and eventually his header. Of course, there's nothing Milan want to do more than remind us why they're a pot 1 team, and Morata would get 2 chances as well. The first is a tame shot at Enquiries, but the second, the looping ball forces our keeper to punch the ball clear. Just moments later, Benacer would thread a ball through our defence to Morata, who rifles a shot near post. It ricochets off Enquiries' armpit and somehow bounces into the top corner. We're 1-0 down yet again. Our response has to be immediate, and with just 5 minutes gone since Milan's opener, we build an attack on the edge of their box. Nico Williams makes a good run from the right, Sanset plays a perfect through ball, and Williams finishes the 1-on-1 with ice-cold composure. As the clock winds down, Milan slow the game down to their pace. Jovic would jog towards our goal at best, drawing a couple of defenders in, and into that space he finds Morata, who shoots near post, and it's into the top corner, 2-1 to Milan, and we have time for probably one more attack. In that last attack, before we can even do anything, the referee blows his final whistle. It's another loss, and now we sit joint bottom of the table. Only one team has worse goal difference, and things are not going very well on the pitch. But we haven't talked about how well things are going off the pitch. The academy is really important for us, and it's not really providing any superstars. We have 2 decent graduates in our squad, but Xavi Gomez and Jose Martin are our only real high potential prospects. I don't even remember signing Jose Martin, and we check on ChatGPT and it confirms my suspicions that he's not even Basque, so we have to release him too. With our academy in shambles, our Champions League campaign in shambles, we do need to head back to playing those games. And heading to Rome, we were actually quite confident. Last year we beat Roma in the Europa League, and their teams only got worse while we've got a lot stronger. This felt like the perfect opportunity to claim our first win in the group stages. Iñaki Williams was now leading the line, and his physicality made an immediate impact. Nico would surge forward, Sanset was fouled, but Martin recovered the ball and played Iñaki through. His strike was only kept out by a fantastic save from Roma's Basque keeper, Alex Romero. Roma responded pretty much straight away. Dovbyk turned his man and unleashed a powerful drive from the edge of the box, but Enquiries was more than equal to it. We pressed on, and Sanset would find Asensio on the right flank. He would sprint into position for the 1-2, he hit it, and his shot would just skim over the crossbar, nothing more than a warning shot. At halftime, we yet again reverted to our last season's formation, and this time, Asensio was the man in charge. His lofted pass found Inaki, who outmuscled Hermoso. With the ball at his feet, he closed in on the goal and chose power over finesse, smashing it into the net for a very well-deserved lead. With Roma now chasing the game, their best chance would come from this world-class cross into the box, but thankfully Paredes' header was so woeful I can't even describe how bad it was. It was really lucky for us, and to see it out we brought on some experience, including Azpilicueta, who rolled back the years with some pretty crucial tackles and a nice bit of pace right here. We won the free kick, and that helped us run down the clock even more, and the final whistle confirmed it. We'd somehow ground out a 1-0 win and 3 precious Champions League points. Fresh after breaking some Roman hearts in Rome, we returned home to face Galatasaray. On paper, this was an easier opposition than Roma, and our real rival in this match turned out to be the non-stop rain. The game actually started with a pretty bizarre moment. Galatasaray had a corner, and we defended it pretty well. We launched a pretty promising looking counter-attack through the Williams brothers, and just as Nico was about to break past their defensive line, the referee blew for a foul. I don't know why he did this, and it was probably the wrong decision. In fact, the rest of the first half was also full of wrong decisions. The rain-soaked pitch made almost every pass skid away or stop dead in the mud, and neither team could create anything of note. In fact, the first half ended 0-0, and I'm not sure there was even a shot. But things changed right after the break. We started pressing Galatasaray's defence, forcing Sanchez into this panicked clearance. It would rebound off Sanset, and as the ball broke loose, Iñaki Williams got there first. He made it into the box and smashed it home. 1-0, and we could be going on a little bit of a win streak. From there though, Galatasaray did try to fight back. Vivian and Azpilicueta had to stand firm right here, cutting out a couple of dangerous dribbles from Sara and Zaha. A few minutes later, Enquiries would make a vital save to deny Batshuayi, and Vivian would cap his defensive masterclass with this brilliant block, followed by a really crucial tackle. The clock slowly ticked down, and despite the conditions, we would hold on. The referee blew his whistle, and it was 2 wins in a row. We'd moved from bottom of the group to 14th overall, and the climb has finally begun. Actually, speaking of league tables, now we're in November, you might be interested to see how we're doing in both leagues. Well, let's start with La Liga, where we've started really well. We're joint first after 10 games, and we've also not lost a single match. Over in the Champions League, only AC Milan have won all 4, so maybe it's not the end of the world the fact that we lost 2-0 to them. I would have taken 14th at this point, but if we can get into that top 8 and guarantee the quarterfinals, we would be an absolute dreamland. To keep the streak alive, we had to face last year's Italian champions Juventus. We would have to beat them without our record signing because Asensio was sidelined for a few weeks with a twisted ankle. But it didn't matter because we still started really brightly, taking our first shot in the first 10 minutes. Martin would play a perfect pass through to Sanset, who aimed for the top corner, but Lunin was always going to save that. Juventus struck back with Galeno forcing a really good save from Enquiries, and from the following corner, Rudiger did nearly punish us. In fact, I hadn't noticed how strong their set-piece lineup is. Rudiger, Way and Brobby are all serious threats. As he has done in most of the games so far, Martin was running the midfield. He would play the ball to Iñaki, who squared it back to Nico. Nico would run into the middle, and his deflected shot would fall back into his path. And on the second attempt, we would score. 1-0 to Athletic yet again. And could this be the start of 3 wins in a row? Well, Juventus immediately went on the attack and earned this pretty dubious free kick. I'm not too sure what we did wrong there. Douglas Luiz would take it, and his delivery was met by Rudiger, who absolutely bullied Vivian, and Galeno would tuck away the loose ball, but the flag was up. Being offside has kept us from conceding a pretty bad goal. Enquiries wasn't covering himself in glory, but did come up big a few minutes later, denying Brobby in this one-on-one. Sanset then nearly delivered a moment of magic. He dispossessed Fagioli near the halfway line and drove through the Juve defence before eventually smashing this shot, which would bounce off the post. Juventus kept struggling with our press. Nico and Muniain eventually would trap Rudiger, and just as Muniain lined up a shot, he was taken down outside the box. Surely that is a penalty or a red card. Well, no, it's actually neither. Just a free kick and a yellow. It's harsh, but we have Kevin Rodriguez. He can take a free kick, and his strike is absolutely perfect. Have a look at this replay. I don't think it could have been any closer to being a top corner shot. We're 2-0 up, and in the final 10 minutes, we just kind of shut up shop. We even tried out Nico as a striker. It didn't quite work, but it didn't matter. We got 3 wins in a row, 9 points in a row, and really, one more victory. We're going to be going into at least the knockout rounds, and maybe if we can win 2 or 3, we're going to be going straight into the quarterfinals. Our next match was the last match before the transfer window, so the last time we might have some of these players on the pitch in the Champions League. A win would be absolutely mega, but what are the chances we can beat a pot 1 team like Liverpool? Sure, this isn't the prime Klopp Liverpool anymore, but Van Dijk, Robertson and Trent are still pretty good, and they have improved their squad quite a lot. Their pre-match show featured a weirdly scary revealing of a John Barnes tifo, but the reveal of their team was even more frightening. It was so strong that Heung-min Song was actually on the bench. Ferland Mendy was on the bench as well, with Balde starting. This is one of the most crazy teams an AI has ever put together. So, is this game going to be open and high scoring, or defensive and boring? Well, the game began with some pretty big chaos. Liverpool could have had a penalty here in the first 10 minutes, but we did break out quite fast on the counter. Iñaki would eventually find himself one-on-one with Mamardashvili, but the Georgian goalkeeper would make a stunning save and keep it level at 0-0. Liverpool would try to respond to Gakpo, who teed up Isaac, but Vivian yet again produced a crucial block. Just moments later, Ruiz would release Nico down the flank, who would find Sanset, and then Iñaki. One-on-one again. This time he chipped it over the keeper, and it was 1-0 to Athletic Club. But Liverpool would try to hit back almost immediately. A loose ball on the left saw Isaac link up with Gakpo before he slipped in Salah, who was in space, and predictably he is going to bury that finish every single time. Just a couple of minutes later, there was a carbon copy move, and Salah fed Gakpo in the box. This time, Enquiries could pull off the save and keep it 1-1. After half-time, Liverpool seemed to go up yet another gear. Salah would combine with Isaac, whose trickery opened up some space, and Gakpo would capitalise, spinning and smashing the ball straight past Enquiries. Soon after, our defence kinda just fell apart. Gakpo outmuscled our centre-back and laid it off to an unmarked Salah, who nonchalantly chipped it in to make it 3-1. That goal was game, set and match, and we can't be too upset because we did give them a real fight, but we struggled to gain possession for the rest of the match. The loss wasn't a massive deal. We can still win one of our final 2 games, or even potentially lose both of them and go through to the knockout. So the Champions League winning dream is still very much alive. But before we can find out by playing those games against Leipzig and Bayern, it's transfer window time. Again, we're praying that no bids come in for Nico because he is now 90 rated, and before we get to January, we do some mass contract renewals. I can't believe we nearly lost Vivian and Yure at the end of this season, but that's all sorted now. Anyway, can we actually sign anyone new? Well, no. We have £4 million of budget, so we'll need to sell players if we want to buy new ones. Let's see what we can do, and week 1 we get an offer for Gurazeta. This guy hasn't really been playing this season, so we negotiated to see what we could get. While signing Griezmann in the swap deal would have been amazing, he seems to have left Madrid, so we negotiated up and we got about £45 million for him. In week 2, there were no offers that I thought was worth accepting, or at least I thought that, because it turns out that Arsenal had triggered Sanset's release clause without me actually noticing. Our Season 1 strike force had left us in the space of 4 days, and that could be an absolute disaster. We need to find some players to replace them as soon as we can. In week 3, it also finally happens. Just before we get to the Bayern game, we get the offer we didn't want to see. AC Milan will want to give us 164 million for Nico. So let's check his value. It's only £130 million, so we have to accept this deal going from the rules we set out in episode 1. Let's see how much money we can extort them for, and it turns out they won't even budge up by a single pound. So while I plan how we could spend this, the 130 million we got for Sanset and the 46 million that we got for Gurazeta, I'm going to need some suggestions. We're going to end the video right here. I know I said I'll play the whole Champions League, but we'll include the rest of that in the next episode as well as the end of our La Liga season. And who knows, maybe there'll even be some huge, surprising, unprecedented news regarding our club for Season 3. I'll still need your help to find players good enough for us to sign in the next transfer window as well, so let me know in the comments if you have any ideas. And also, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that episode. I really do appreciate the support on this series so far. The last episode was the most views I got in the first hour of any career mode video I've ever uploaded, so thank you for that. And hopefully I'll see you very soon for next episode's season finale. Thank you and goodbye.